Good evening, everybody. May I have your attention, please?
Thank you very much. I would like to introduce the presiding officer, Alison Johnson, MSP. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. As you've heard, I'm Alison Johnston, MSP, presiding officer of the Scottish Parliament, and on behalf of the Parliament, it's my great pleasure to welcome you here this evening for the launch of this year's Scottish Poppy Appeal. I am particularly pleased that we are able to meet in person again this year, after the launch taking place wholly online last year. This is one of the very first in-person engagements that we've been able to hold here in this new parliamentary session, and it's a real pleasure to be able to do so. The numbers that we can host are still limited, but we're also broadcasting this event live on Teams so that as many people as possible can take part. Remembrance is acutely painful for many people. Hosting this reception and being involved in other ways around Remembrance Day is a small way for us to show our solidarity. This time of remembrance is also an important point for us all to reflect in our own personal ways on conflict and loss. And it's an important point for us all to reflect collectively on the service that the men and women of the armed forces, past and present, have given to their country. It allows us to take time to pay our respects and to express our ongoing support for those in the armed forces community and the families, friends and local communities that sustain them. Members across the Parliament take an active interest in the work of our armed forces and veterans organisations all year round. Many members, of course, have military bases or veterans organisations in their constituencies, and they represent their interests actively here in Parliament, including through parliamentary questions, motions and involvement in cross-party groups. And we've had debates highlighting issues of particular concern to veterans, including how they can access welfare and financial advice and mental health support, for example. Now, the last 18 months have seen the armed forces contribute hugely to local communities across Scotland, helping with the administration of the massive COVID-19 vaccination programme and supporting ambulance services. But I know this period has also seen many challenges for veterans and has increased the isolation felt by many. I've been very impressed to hear of the way that Poppy Scotland has quickly adapted both its fundraising and the way it delivers support services. And I look forward to hearing more about Poppy Scotland's work in the course of this evening. We are pleased to support Poppy Scotland in launching its largest fundraising event, the Scottish Poppy Appeal, here at Holyrood. This is an appeal which helps to fund the delivery of vital support and services to veterans and other members of the armed forces community in Scotland. And I know that many, many people greatly value the service that Poppy Scotland provides, whether it's through advice, employment, housing or respite care. The Scottish Poppy Appeal raises a remarkable sum of money each year. This wouldn't be possible without dedicated and hard-working volunteers throughout the country. I am particularly pleased that later in tonight's reception we are able to recognise the efforts of those volunteers by making a presentation to some of the President's Award winners this year. This year is particularly notable as the centenary of the introduction of the poppy as a symbol of remembrance, with a specially designed centenary poppy as the centrepiece of the fundraising effort. I would like to wish everyone at Poppy Scotland a very successful appeal. I am going to invite Sir Alistair Irwin, Poppy Scotland President, to say a few words. I'd also like to point out that we're joined this evening by members of the Scottish Parliament, and we will have an opportunity to have a chat later. We're also joined by the Minister for Veterans. So we will have an opportunity to get together to discuss many of these issues as the evening proceeds. I'm absolutely delighted that we're now going to hear from Sir Alistair. Now, many of you will know that Sir Alistair will step down from his role later this year after 15 years' service. I know that he is held in the highest regard for the commitment he has shown to the armed forces. To the armed forces, the community in all its diversity in Scotland, and the pivotal role he has played in the operation and development of both Poppy Scotland and the Royal British Legion Scotland. On behalf of the Scottish Parliament, thank you, Sir Alistair, for your service and for your partnership with Poppy Scotland, with the Parliament over these years, and our every good wish for the future. Thank you.
Presiding Officer, thank you very much for those very kind words and for your warm welcome to all of us, and indeed for hosting this reception. It really is wonderful to be back in the swing after the interruptions of last year. Believe me, we in Poppy Scotland are very conscious of the honour that the Parliament does us by being the charity of the Parliament, and the fact that this is a reception that has not been possible, and that I think we're the first, or one of the first, since the restrictions have been partially lifted. We couldn't be more grateful to it. And thank you also very much to your wonderful staff who worked so hard to allow all this to happen. So thank you very much. As you said, this is of course the centenary year of the founding of the Earl Haig Fund for Scotland, now known as Poppy Scotland, of the Royal British Legion Scotland, and of course little bit, a few weeks younger, the Royal British Legion down south of the border. All crucial partners in a great cause. This is certainly something to be celebrated, but I think that the founders 100 years ago would have been dismayed to think that there was still a need for it in 2021. After all, the Great War was supposed to have been the war to end all wars, but of course conflict, unfortunately, continues to be a seemingly inevitable part of all our lives. And these three great organisations continue to be very much needed. The fact that we're still here after 100 years and more than able to do what is needed is indeed something, I think, to celebrate. But COVID, there's no escaping the fact that it has been a very difficult year for everyone, including, of course, Poppy Scotland, and more importantly, for the members of our Armed Forces and Veterans community here in Scotland. Many of the issues that people face are beneficiaries. The things like isolation, health, anxieties and so on have been greatly exacerbated by the conditions of COVID, and other conditions, other problems have emerged on the back of the pandemic. As we started this appeal this time last year, we knew we were entering uncharted territory. We were very confident in our contingency plans, but we were also very well aware that there were all sorts of things that we normally do at this time of year in the appeal that we couldn't do at all, like the launching here in Parliament, or would have to be in some way or other severely modified. The response to this challenge from our volunteers, from the wider Scottish public, and indeed from our staff was incredible. Things like online giving and QR codes enabled us to attract donations in a way that I think would have been a thing of science fiction only a few years ago. Despite the restrictions, people went that extra mile in their support, whether donating online, displaying poppies in their windows, or going that extra mile to ensure that there were plenty of cans and poppies available in all the places that we would normally hope to find them. Despite all that effort, traditional cash donations to the 2020 appeal fell by 28%. And this compounded the reduction we'd seen in our income from our non-appeal fundraising activities throughout the rest of the year. Despite this fall in income, Poppy Scotland's vital, life-changing support has continued uninterrupted. Face-to-face services, of course, were greatly curtailed for obvious reasons. But, for example, over 9,000 telephone calls were made to our most vulnerable veterans to try and make sure that everything was as all right with them as it possibly could be. Drop-in groups took place online instead of face-to-face, and we introduced new digital ways of allowing people to get in touch with us and to ask for grants and so on. And even if some of our beneficiaries, I'm very nearly in this category, remain unable or reluctant to get stuck into the digital age, we've found that most people have been able to call on family or friends to help them press the right buttons when the moment was needed. The pandemic has also had the effect of accelerating some of the trends that we noticed and were monitoring. As a result, we have examined the way in which we deliver our welfare services. This has sometimes led to the taking of quite difficult decisions, not least the decision to close our welfare centres in Inverness and Ayr, mirrored by the closure of Royal British Legion pop-in centres and area offices across the rest of the United Kingdom. Our staff in Inverness and Ayr continue to do the same amazing work on the ground as ever, but in a different sort of way. Change is, of course, never easy, whatever you're looking at, but a key reason why we're able to mark our 100th anniversary is the charity's ability to adapt to changing circumstances and to the changing needs of those that we're trying to support. As you'll know, Poppy Scotland's funds are used to help veterans in need, either directly, grants, advice, practical help, and so on, or indirectly through lobbying for improvements in government provision. For example, the Count Me In campaign has led to the successful conclusion of a question about armed forces service in the forthcoming census next year, delayed from this year because of COVID. At last, we're going to see some really authoritative data about the armed forces and veterans community in Scotland. It's going to be highly significant, this, because the new data will enable national and local government, statutory bodies and charities to better shape and target the support that they're able to give. So many thanks to all those MSPs and countless others who supported us in this, as it turned out, very successful campaign. Another example is our work along with the Royal British Legion to get amendments to the Armed Forces Bill currently passing through Parliament in Westminster. Part of the purpose of this bill is to enshrine, further enshrine perhaps, the principles of the Armed Forces Covenant in law, and this is obviously a very, very good thing. But it doesn't cover such things as employment, pensions, social care, criminal justice, or immigration. It jolly well should. And we're pushing hard to try and achieve that. But we campaign also in the Scottish Parliament. In January, we launched our first ever manifesto ahead of the 2021 Scottish parliamentary elections, and we're gaining support for a number of our proposals. We're very encouraged that the political parties have engaged so positively with the ideas that they're putting forward. We all seem to be in harmony, if not perhaps in perfect unison, on this, and this is a very happy place for us as a charity to be. In other news, I can mention the redevelopment of the Lady Hague Poppy Factory in Edinburgh. Work began on that in 2018. It's been delayed by the pandemic and by a shortage of building materials, but immediately following this year's Poppy appeal, the team of disabled veterans are going to move back into a significantly upgraded facility and factory site. Apart from anything else, it's going to be a very good place for individuals and groups and schools to visit, to explore the evolution of the poppy, to meet the people who work there, and to understand the life-changing support that the emblem of the poppy still provides today. Please come and visit us in the factory once our new tours program is launched early next year. The new facility will support the excellent educational work being done by Bud. I don't know if any of you have met Bud, but he is our mobile learning classroom, which we're delighted is once again travelling the length and breadth of Scotland after a year of enforced self-isolation for obvious reasons. Of more immediate importance is, of course, this year's Poppy appeal. This year is arguably the most important ever. Actually, I think I may have said that more than once over the last year or so. But it really is important this year as we look to recover from the effects of the pandemic. Our volunteers are really genuinely looking forward to getting back out to collect again, and we hope to build further on the digital platforms that we created last year. Your support is critical in helping us deliver a fitting centenary appeal. So, members of the Scottish Parliament, please may we ask for your support by tweeting. I've never in my life tweeted. by tweeting using the hashtag Poppy100 and share our extensive social media content with your followers. and please highlight the importance of this year's appeal in any articles you put in your local newspapers. And if there's anyone here or who's following us online just now, if there's anyone who can spare the time, we would be absolutely delighted to have you involved in any local poppy collection. So if you've got an hour or two to spare between now and Remembrance Sunday, we'd be thrilled if you were able to join us. And finally, if I could end on a personal note. I'm a little over 2 months away from the end of my time as President of Poppy Scotland and of Legion Scotland. As I reflect, the presiding officer said it was 15 years. Somebody's maths is wrong. I reckon it's 16, but whatever it is, a lot of people think that it's a great deal far too long. But as I reflect on the last number of years, I can see wonderful advances in the way we all go about our work in support of this tremendous charity. Actually, what I really mean is in support of all our veterans and their families who are in need of some way or another. For the charity is in fact no more than a means to an end. But I chiefly reflect on the outstanding work and support of our small army of paid staff and volunteers, including, of course, some in this room today. Without them, Poppy Scotland could not do what it does so well. Without them, many, many veterans would go without the help that they so badly need. It's been a tremendous privilege to have been so closely involved all these years. As in future I languish in my bath chair, thinking of days gone by, I shall be thinking in gratitude of the many occasions, such as this one, when politicians, the third sector and supporters have come together to demonstrate a shared determination to do everything possible to help veterans in need. Indeed, to try and create conditions in which no veteran is ever in need of help again. But I shall also think of our very dedicated Poppy Scotland staff, all the volunteer organisers, the distributors of cans, and all those who stand on street corners and shopping malls and in supermarkets shaking their cans, and those who go out and do things to raise money on behalf of Poppy Scotland. Each one of those people is a credit to humanity, and I thank them all very much. Well, that's more than enough from me. Thank you once again, Presiding Officer, very much indeed for your generous hospitality. And I wondered now if you would mind joining me for the presentation of our latest recipients of the President's Awards. It's one of the best of the President's tasks to read each year a number of excellent citations, but only the very, very best ever come to the top. There are always wonderful citations. We have some wonderful ones here. They have come to the very top. We have 3 winners here this evening. There were 2 in Inverness that we presented last Friday. And so what we're going to do is ask our head of fundraising, Gordon Meeking, to read out the citations in alphabetical order. So don't assume that if you're the last, you were the third. It doesn't work like that. And then we will present as each one is written, and then do it. Gordon, thanks.
Presiding Officer, Lieutenant General Sir Alistair Irwin, Minister, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me the greatest pleasure to read the citations out for the Poppy Scotland President's Awards for 2021. Donna Armstrong has been an exemplary Poppy Appeal organiser for Lochwinnock, Morrison's and Johnston store and the St Enoch Centre since 2010. Proudly representing Poppy Scotland and bringing enthusiasm, passion to everything that she does. An exceptional networker, she's been able to harness the support of many local community groups, including the Boys Brigade, Army Cadets, as well as other armed forces and veterans groups. The list of her activities for Poppy Scotland seems endless, and nothing too out there, not to be tried at least once. She completed the kilt walk dressed as a giant poppy for starters, but this year she went even further by completing one of the craziest fundraising activities for Poppy Scotland. As part of her 2021 Poppy Pledge, Donna challenged herself to complete a wing walk, which is essentially standing on the outside of a plane whilst in flight, an amazing and no doubt slightly terrifying way to raise money. Additionally, she has organised a zip slide across the River Clyde in Glasgow for people of all ages, some of whom had served their country, including a veteran with severe brain injury. In fundraising terms, Donna's efforts are nothing short of amazing and have made tangible differences to the veterans' lives in Scotland. In the 2020 Scottish Poppy Appeal, she raised nearly £14,000, an incredible increase on the previous year, despite the challenges of COVID-19. All achieved despite not being able to drive and juggling a busy family life and work commitments. She's also spoken eloquently at schools and at gatherings of Poppy Scotland volunteers, sharing her knowledge and the importance of the poppy to anyone who would listen. She has organised race nights, the Pegasus Ball, indoor picnic based on the last night of the proms, has baked countless hundreds of delicious shortbread poppies, all in a selfless attempt to help others. She's revolutionised the Loch Winnacha Village Appeal from a simple static can collection in a few shops to a dynamic fundraising area with street collections and a presence at the art festival each year. Donna has been inspired to do all this by the tragic loss of her nephew in Afghanistan, a loss that affected her deeply. She's since dedicated herself to raising awareness of veterans' issues and of the effect of loss on families. She is a champion of the Scottish Poppy Appeal, actively encouraged veterans to take an active role, always listening to their stories and providing a warm smile and an attentive ear to them. Donna Armstrong is an example to us all. It is said that if she were to be cut in half, there would be a cloud of flying poppies. A tireless champion of the Poppy Scotland cause, she is a worthy and popular recipient of the President's Award. Sir Alistair. Our second recipient this evening, a collective called the Flying Fifers. The Flying Fifers are an outstanding group of volunteer fundraisers who are bound together to take on extraordinary endurance challenges to support Poppy Scotland and raise life-changing funds for our armed forces community here. The Flying Fifers do so much it can sometimes be difficult to track all of their amazing work. The Flying Fifers is the collective name for a group of truly amazing individuals: Sandy Cunningham, John Duffin, Mark Young, Stephen Bowen, Thomas Bremner and Joe Duffin, all of whom contributed to raising life-changing sums for the Scottish Poppy Appeal. The cycle of remembrance events have been a signature fundraising activity of the Flying Fifers, including an arduous 700-mile ride from their home in Leven to Compagna in France. They've also cycled to many of the battlefields of France, including the Somme in 2016. Now, if this was not enough, there was a small matter of a 1,000-mile ride between Land's End and John O'Groats to add to the list of amazing achievements. These challenges required immense physical and mental strength, but whatever was needed, the Flying Fifers put their bodies on the line to support Poppy Scotland's beneficiaries and their families. Not satisfied with literally thousands of miles spent in the saddle, they have also run marathons, performed bungee jumps, all in the hope of making things better for people less fortunate than themselves. They will often be seen supporting the Scottish Poppy Appeal in any way they can, collecting at local supermarkets or promoting Poppy Scotland in the countless newspaper articles that have been written about their Herculean challenges. Sandy Cunningham, for example, can even be found each year with work colleagues helping to build the field and garden of remembrance in Edinburgh at the Scott Monument. The life-changing funds raised by the Flying Fifers over many years and the events is hard to calculate, but it's unquestionably tens of thousands of pounds to date, with no sign of them slowing down at any time soon. On behalf of the Flying Fifers, Sir Alistair, we have Sandy Cunningham and John Duffin. Sir Alistair. Our final President's Awards winner this evening, Mrs Susan Little. Mrs Susan Little is the appetite of an unsung hero of the Scottish Poppy Appeal, being a dedicated and highly successful volunteer for nearly half a century. There is no volunteering challenge that she has not seen and not been able to overcome. For 46 years, Mrs Little has been a central figure of the appeal in Broughty Ferry, collecting donations and sharing the poppy with all comers. For the last 20 years, she's been the local organiser for the Broughty Ferry collection, undertaking the sometimes arduous task of assembling a team of volunteers, inspiring them all to be part of the appeal. Mrs Little has led a stellar team of ladies who return year after year to support, creating a legacy that will change the lives of many who volunteer with her and the beneficiaries of the funds that she raises. Additionally, Susan organises regular soup lunches at her local church, giving people an opportunity to meet up and have a good old natter, with profits all going to Poppy Scotland. She's been responsible for raising over the years sums well in excess of £10,000 from a comparatively small area. Her 46 years of unswerving loyalty to Poppy Scotland are a true inspiration, not only to her community, but to all communities and to other collectors who work so closely with her. She's still active in the Broughty Ferry Poppy Appeal and very much wants to remain involved and build on her amazing legacy. Truly committed to the poppy cause, Susan Little's enthusiasm, stamina and great success means she will be an unsung hero no longer and richly deserving recipient of the President's Award.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, presiding officer, that really brings things to conclusion. Thank you again very, very much indeed for your hospitality this evening. We very much appreciate it. Well done to the three President's Awards winners. Absolutely tip-top. Thank you very much. And there's just one last thing to do, and that is to invite you to just watch the very short little film on the screens there, which explain why it is we do what we do.
I had a house, landlord decided to sell it, so that was the on the street. Stayed on the street for 6 months, sleeping rough, still working. Sometimes I had to stay at work, get washed and shaved and work away. Still did the address. And then I had a mental breakdown. Poppy Scotland made a big change to my life when I went there. They gave me a job, which I love now. My dog's not allowed to come to work with me because he's a therapy dog. Helped me get a house. And it really totally changed my life. It made work with guys in the army again, getting that brotherhood going. Doing all things for Poppy Scotland, that like I do all the garden stuff, gardening remembrance. And it's an honour to do that. And really without Poppy Scotland, I wouldn't be here. I'd be in the box.
When I was out in Belize, I was on tour on Instagram. We were out at some point, it was an operational tour, and I got shot a couple of times by a drugs gang. I got shot through the left leg. I went down, hit the floor, he stood over the top of me, shot me in the back, and I had a bullet in my heart for 3 months after that until we operated and removed it, cut out my heart basically. The Health of Scotland made a huge impact. It actually helped. So it's changed my life, getting to know the team that are the backup, the backbone behind Poppy Scotland, that reach out to so many different people. Without their help, who knows? It's had a huge impact, and a good impact, which I think is important.
I'll say faced many challenges since we were returning to the state. The probably most important one was my mental health, my mental state, the way I was engaging with people. I started to retreat in an enclosed environment away from people and keep myself to myself, which affected my mental health further. Since Poppy Scotland came into my life, they've helped me, given me that support network and everything that was missing. Helped me get the financial assistance I needed for my first move out of social isolation caused by mental health issues. Helped support my family, helped bring the family closer together. Since I got the diagnosis of PTSD in 2011, as I said, I've come at various stages, and at each stage of my recovery I've been there, and I've come back bigger and stronger to the person you see today. I haven't recovered fully, but I'm 100% better than I used to be, all through their work. Every penny they raise nationally goes for guys like me.
Thank you. I think that video highlights the impact that the work of Poppy Scotland volunteers has on so many lives and why it's so important. I am inspired and delighted that the Parliament has been able to be involved in this event this evening. Thank you all for joining us, and do now please take this opportunity to enjoy some refreshments and catch up with one another. Thank you very much.